The Leftovers, this show.
The Leftovers.
It's a Thanksgiving show, The Leftovers, before Thanksgiving.
I'm not gonna lie, I tried to take today off.
Right, which would have just been me. So.
Yeah, Irina was like, I don't have anyone. Everyone's out of town, so you have no choice. You're the person who waited to the last minute to ask for the day off. So.
And then you said, what did you say after that? You said, is there any way that Michael Shore could do the show?
Yes,
right.
That is what I said. Actually, the funny thing is, she was like, I don't even know who's going to do the show with you.
Yeah.
So, anyway, by the way, I'm actually happy I'm here because there are a lot of news stories that I'm excited to cover. Actually, the first story in the first hour is my favorite because it brings into question, the purpose of journalism, journalistic ethics. It's all really interesting.
Yeah.
So, we're going to get to that. And then later on in the show, of course, after battling one another during the election, all of a sudden Donald Trump has decided to have Nikki Haley as part of his administration. So we'll get to that in a little bit as well. And then in the second hour, lots of fun stuff, including a fun story about George Soros and the perfect reason why the right wing likes to demonize him. So, all right. So you ready? You want to get to it?
Yeah, let's go.
Let's do it.
You're in charge. You're the one who took the day off.
All right. The question of what the proper role of the media has come up quite a bit during this past election. And of course, there's been a lot of criticism about how the mainstream media has addressed certain candidates, including Donald Trump. Well, recently Michael Wolff, who also considers himself a journalist, was interviewed by Digiday. And during this interview, he talked about what he believes the proper role of journalists should be, and how journalists have actually moved away from that by doing pesky little things like sharing opinion or maybe even fact-checking. Take a listen to what he had to say.
I've lived through a lot of presidents. I've lived through Nixon.
So he doesn't require the media to change the way.
I think what is required is for the media to do its job, and I really deeply feel that the media hasn't done its job, has done its job badly, hasn't done its job, has often abdicated its responsibility, has lost itself somewhere. I don't even know where they are. And right now, this is an interesting moment in which the media suddenly looks at Donald Trump as a threat instead of looking at Donald Trump as a story. And I might add, possibly the biggest story of our time, maybe the most interesting story, and certainly a story that needs to be told in rather conventional ways. Who are these people? What do they want? What motivates them? Where are they from? Where are they going? Just basic storytelling.
So he's going to elaborate a little more in the videos that we're going to show you about what he means by basic storytelling. But his biggest grievance with current day journalists is that they don't simply transcribe what people in power say and then just leave it at that. He thinks that's the role of a journalist. You don't do the fact checking, you don't share context, you don't share any of that. You just go ahead and report what one side says, what the other side says, and that's it. You just leave it at that. And honestly, look, he's getting a lot of heat for what he's saying, but this is not a new idea. This is actually something that a lot of people who work in media believe you should do. They think it's actually unethical to go out of your way and tell the audience or tell your readers, who's right and who's wrong.
Yeah, I think also it reminded me of something I read today before knowing about this Michael Wolff story, which is Christiane Amanpour, who is an accomplished capital J journalist, had said, and she said it at I think in the last day or so, she accepted an award Tuesday. It was yesterday from a group called the Committee to Protect Journalists. And she said that she believes it is such a beautiful way of putting exactly why Michael Wolff is wrong here into some kind of perspective. Because like you said, Anna, or like you hinted anyway, I think that Wolff I don't think he's dictating. He's saying this is what he thinks should be, and this is where we've lost our way. I just totally disagree with it.
Yeah, I think that it's actually a very harmful way of explaining what a journalist's role is, because we're already seeing that fear among people who work in the mainstream already, the fear of being criticized for taking a side, right? And so look, here on this show, we're very clear about the fact that we come from a progressive perspective. The facts are the facts. You can't change that. But we share our opinion on the stories after we give you the facts. And then you guys can decide whether or not you agree with us or not. A lot of you disagree a lot of times, and that's okay. But in this case, you know, you have news outlets like CNN that don't do actual reporting. You know, like, look, every time I travel for the Fusion show, my favorite thing to do is watch CNN when I'm in the hotel room, because I want to be aware of the way that they report, and I don't want to sit here and criticize them unless I know what they report and how they report. Live once Donald Trump is inaugurated. You can spend 5 minutes on that story, it's not that important. But they focus on a non-story for days, and I think it's because it's an easy thing to cover without worrying about sharing your opinion or anything like that. And then they also have Donald Trump come on, or they'll have, you know, some other politician come on, and let's say they're both disagreeing with one another, they'll just let the two sides share whatever it is that they think, and then they won't do any fact checking. And so they're confusing objectivity with neutrality, and that's something that you see in the mainstream media a lot. And a lot of people don't have the resources to go out of their way and be journalists for themselves. You're supposed to be doing your job and let them know who's lying, who's telling you the truth.
Yeah, and you know, and CNN has what a lot of other people who want to do citizen journalism don't have, which is editors, people
Yes.
that are fact checking, going through. And so when they do a story, which is very different than when they do commentary and when they have a guest on, when they do a story, generally speaking, those what are called news packages, those have been vetted, and those reporters are working, and they're talking to sources, and whether it's about whether Melania Trump will live or not, or whether it's about Syria, or whether it's about water contamination in New Mexico, it doesn't matter. There are people that are script supervising and looking at those scripts. But that's the problem when you're 24-hour news, is then you get on and you put two people up there talking about water contamination. One person saying, well, it's not contaminated, the other person saying it's contaminated. Nobody's checking those stats.
That's right.
And that is the perpetuation of something like CNN, and that's what makes it very difficult.
Media and journalism is not meant to be a platform in which you give people in power the ability to share whatever it is that they believe or whatever lies that they want to tell. The whole purpose of media in the beginning was muckraking. Like, that's what really appealed to me in terms of like journalists and what they do. It was about holding people in power, specifically businesses, accountable for their actions. Businesses hated journalists, when journalism really started here in the United States, and now it's been completely perverted into like this nonsense that you see. And to hear someone like Michael Wolff advocating for that is really depressing. So let's go to video number 3, where he talks about how journalists should be stenographers.
That group really seems quite content in giving up any pretense of at least one key function of journalism is just to represent the facts. But
we don't want to be stenographers either. I mean, there's a balance.
Well, first thing, yes, you do want to be stenographers. That's what journalism is about. That's a very significant piece of journalism. To be a stenographer. We don't want to hear you. Write it down. Write what the information is. Take it down. You're there to literally convey what someone says, someone in power, what they say, and you bring it to people who want to know. That's stenography. This stenographer, that's bad. Screw you. That's not bad at all. Do you have any idea? In one of I can kind of do a little digression on my belief that journalism is now a profession filled with people who have no experience as journalists. They're all under the age of 25 and talking to other people under the age of 25. So let me send the message. Stenographer, that's what you are supposed to be.
And, later on he was talking about how, these people are just jealous because I scored an interview with Steve Bannon. I don't know, man. In that answer, it really sounded like you're jealous of young journalists who are actually disrupting the type of media that you think is good. And look, he also says that Donald Trump's elected now, okay? The time of opposition is over. Now all you're supposed to do as a journalist is report what he does and what he says, and that's it. That's all you do. There's no time for opposition now. It's too late. It's over.
Yeah, I mean, he's so misguided. First of all, I should disclaim this by saying that I read the book that Michael Wolff wrote about Rupert Murdoch, and it was great, and he's a great writer. And I mean, I think even listening to him say a foolish piece of nonsense about this, which is what I think this is, it does also betray that he's not a dumb guy, even the way he's saying it and how his opinions are formed. He's a smart guy and he's a good writer. He is somebody, though, who I think you're right, Anna, seems so envious of the way his business has changed. And, you know, his business, I mean, he's not an in-the-field reporter. He was an editor at a magazine. He's a writer. Yep. He has covered media more than he has been in media. So, you know, who are we to say if he's envious of it? But it certainly sounds in those remarks like he was. But let me put this in some context. I was, you know, in reporting this last election, out at different events where people who were at Trump events would look at one another and they would say, what do we do with that, right? About whatever it was that Trump said. And it was a prevailing, you know, sort of cool idea in the way of like, you know, let's everybody sign up for the Muslim registry. We don't know if that's going to happen, but let's just write down what he said and not say anything, because whenever we say anything about it, nobody listens to us anyway. All they're doing is listening to him and becoming fascinated. So there's an exasperation that makes you say, maybe that's what we should do. But that's an extreme, and he sounds very serious about it here, which nobody was serious about it. They were sort of saying, well, what difference does it make what we say? Because just say what he said and go home.
Look, if he's trying to make an argument that, you know, all of these opinions are unnecessary and you should do straight reporting, fine. But straight reporting has been completely misinterpreted by
stenography.
Stenography. Yeah. So essentially, all you do is transcribe what someone in power says, and you allow them to utilize your platform as a way in which they can get out any type of message, be it a deceptive message, be it a destructive message, it doesn't matter. And so then there's really no role of the media. If all it is a vessel in which, you know, people in power use to like spread misinformation or spread their whatever, then I don't know, there's really no purpose of journalism, honestly. Yeah. It's supposed to challenge those in power, not just, you know, serve as a platform for them.
Right, absolutely. Gwen Eiffel, who we lost this week, who, you know, in reading so much about her, one of the things that stuck with me that she said this week was that journalism, it should be something that you approach when you are a journalist, you should approach everything with skepticism, but not cynicism.
Yes.
And so what Michael Wolff is saying, don't approach it with anyism. He's just saying don't even approach it, which isn't journalism, right? I mean, you're just saying you're reading back a transcript, and
exactly.
That's not. Then you don't need the journalist, right? Well, you do need the journalist.
Well, people, of course, gave him a lot of criticism after he had this interview with Digiday. And Glenn Greenwald, who I believe is a real journalist, also criticized him. But what I found funny is that people went into his Wikipedia page and they edited the page to indicate that he is a stenographer. And so he shouldn't contest that. He thinks stenography is awesome, that he thinks that's what the main role is of a journalist. I want to go to Graphic 6. He did respond to the criticism in a tweet. Here's what he had to say. I didn't say it's the only job, but it clearly is a basic one. Why even deny it? Self-promotion, self-dramatization? Come on. So, look, here's the issue. I think that there is a problem with some journalists, even digital media, members of digital media, who make the story about them, who are more interested in becoming the story. And I think that breaks, some journalistic ethics that I agree with. I don't think the story should be about you. The story should be about the information and fact-checking what it is that anyone in power is saying, right? If you have two sides, don't treat both sides like they're completely equal. One side might be lying, so you want to look into it. Both sides might be lying. You want to look into it, and you want to make sure you give the audience accurate information. Opinion is another thing. You know, everyone has their opinion, and I think it's actually a lot better when a member of the media shares what his or her opinion is, so you know where they're coming from. Because the reality is, whether they share that opinion or not, they have an opinion. And so sometimes it comes out in different ways when they're pretending that they're being objective.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I mean, and listen, he clearly feels passionately about this. He's not, what you have to respect about this, even though it seems absurd to me, is that he's dug his heels in on it, and he's not saying, no, that's not really what I meant. I mean, he said, it's not the only way of doing it, but it clearly is part of it. I just totally disagree with him, because then you're taking an element out of this, and this is an unusual year, because journalists who have always been objective, and that doesn't mean neutral, but objective, and that goes against what Christiane Amanpour said. But she said you have to be truthful, not objective, and that's true as well, obviously. But this year, people have wanted to, who would never have before, take a side in this election because of what they saw as this totally out of bounds way that Donald Trump was treating the media. You get treated poorly. You don't just lie down and get treated poorly like that. And a lot of people saw that. And so this year, that instinct to be that way made it very difficult for journalists to sort of contemplate their role, which is where I think Wolf is coming from. But the way he's defining this role is ridiculous.
So you just brought up, another huge story that I didn't cover, but I'm sure TYT covered. Donald Trump calling, the biggest names in news to Trump Tower and basically scolding them as if they had done like an effective job in criticizing him or holding him accountable for his actions. The mainstream media essentially gave him a platform where he could spread his ridiculous ideas. He could call in, with a crappy graphic and say whatever the hell he wanted, and they barely even challenged him or questioned anything he had to say, but it still wasn't enough, right? He literally invited them to Trump Tower so he can scold them for not doing a better job in being nicer to him. So there's a big problem with what's happening in the media right now. And look, I don't care if it's a Democrat or a Republican doing that. That is unacceptable behavior, and it's even more unacceptable if media outlets comply with that kind of garbage. Right.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't think they've been complicit at all in a way. Just going there, listen, all that reporters want is to be able to sit across from the president-elect, no matter who it is, right? In this case, it's Trump.
I think it's part of the problem.
Well, no, I mean, part of the problem is you don't get any other access. After the primaries, access to Donald Trump was there was hardly any for any journalists. That was part of what Kellyanne Conway did when she came over, and to a less of an extent, Paul Manafort. You still go to where the story is if you're a journalist.
Here's the thing.
And he's the story.
There are plenty of journalists out there who have no access, right? So Amy Goodman's one of them. If you want to go back in history, I.F. Stone is another one. Izzy Stone had no access to anyone in power, and he was honestly one of the few that was doing real investigative journalism. But the establishment hated him.
But access is still something that I.F. Stone wanted, and I.F. Stone on many occasions got. He didn't get it at the height of his career, but I mean, the reason he didn't have access is because what he did with access while he did have it. So so I think that you're never going to change that instinct. If somebody was shot at City Hall, the reporter who gets to the mayor is the first person who's going to, has got the story. That's just part of what you do when you're a reporter. So if the president-elect is taking you in under the guise of whatever it is, you're going to go where the president-elect is. And, I know what you're saying. It just feels like they're being played, right?
Yeah.
It's felt like they've been played all along. But it's better to be there and to be able to tell the story of how you were played, which is what they did, and which is why we're irate about it, why people are reacting to it, than to never have it have happened at all.
Yeah, I would respect them a lot more if they utilize that access in an effective way, rather than trying to, walk this very fine line where they don't piss Trump off, and they still get that access, but still try to appear as if they're doing journalism.
Well, this is clearly an administration where they're not going to get very much access. I mean, the access to the president always wanes once they become president, right? Obama was all about access. Bush was all about access, open, clear, transparent as a lot of it was in both administrations. At times, for moments, they were hardly transparent as administrations. That's just what happens, unfortunately. So you fight for every breath you can get, and So I understand why they're doing it. The payoff though is not what it used to be, and it's not what they think that it is. But we're seeing. I mean, listen, that story. I think the fact that story came out, even that he scolded the media and lit into people like Jeff Zucker, right? Who a lot of us think gave him the White House, right?
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't see it that way. That's an enlightening thing. The fact that this even happened. So. It's not even a silver lining thing. It's a one or the other. You either get that or you don't, and I think that's what you get out of this.
Right. Well, I think if people keep reporting in the way that Michael Wolff sees fit, they're going to lose a lot of viewers and news consumers. So
yeah, I don't think that's the tendency either. I mean, I think he's a lone wolf.
Mm-hmm.
I think that there aren't a lot of people that are sort of coming to his defense.
Yeah, that's true. He is getting a lot of criticism. All right, guys, we got to take our first break, but stick around because when we come back, Wolf Blitzer asks some follow-up questions, and it's actually newsworthy. So stick around.
All right, post-game here in Studio B. It's a green screen magic of internet television.
A lot of condom breaking stories.
Any conversation that starts with marriage is an interesting thing deserves a little bit of...
When the kid cries, perhaps that is an opportunity to do something. It's an opportunity to do some parenting.
Yeah, parenting is you cry, you're gone.
Oh my God.
I love that video.
Yeah, Ben, I got a great eye. Chew. You're like, my mouth was open. She sneezed in my eye.
I used to have donut tower next to my desk.
Yeah, I'll dress up like a girl.
I sound confident now, Anna. Yeah.
When we're off the air, I'm going to be like, how is this going to work? When you get literally asked why, 21 straight times.
Yeah.
Like, at some point, you're fucking again, right?
So I dumped the kids off at her mom's, and I drove down to La Jolla for a day. Get out, kids.
They're like, but Daddy, no. Why? What do you mean, why? You asked me to look at you. You did it. You brought it up. You know you're doing it. Why? I don't know why. I was reading. She's lovely. Here's what's different. Like, it is a different feeling. Everybody says this, but it's 5:11 when we're shooting this. I can't wait to go home. Like that. I can't wait to see it.
What you guys do is allow us to be open and honest, and we don't have to worry about censorship. We don't have to worry about sponsors telling us what we can and can't say. We're accountable by our audience and our audience only, and I absolutely love that. That's the best part about being a member. We love you guys.
I'm Brett Ehrlich with Breaking News with Brett Ehrlich. This is Breaking News with Brett Ehrlich. CNN apologizes to Bernie Sanders about primary coverage. Admits they just really, really, really wanted Hillary to win.
Turks, Anna Kasparian, and Michael Shore with you.
That's weird.
The leftovers.
It's a Thanksgiving show. The
Yeah.
leftovers before Thanksgiving.
I'm not gonna lie. I tried to take today off.
Right.
Welcome back to TYT. So I have some tweets that I'm going to read from you guys, TYT Live. But before I do that, JR actually has more tweets from Michael Wolff responding to the haters, and they're actually amazing because he's not doubling down. As JR says, he's tripling down on what he had to say.
Okay, so I just wanted to see what his response was, because usually when these things come up and someone's wiki page gets all changed, I wonder if either the person gets more upset or if they kind of go, I see what you're saying, because there's a way to kind of quell it, but he apparently isn't a fan of Twitter. And if someone said the fact that he's on it, he's like, oh, I'm ashamed, because he doesn't like the media in itself. Because he said, I'm not proud of it, because that particular tweet. But then there was a lot of age ones, where someone said, what's the difference between a 25-year-old and a 45-year-old? They both pay their taxes, and they're citizens of the country. And he goes, well, one is they're good citizens, and they're bad journalists, being the 25-year-olds. Simply because
you're 25, you're automatically a bad journalist, right? Especially if you hold anyone accountable for their actions.
You're also not talking about a doctor here, right? 25-year-old doctor is just not even out of med school, right? Operating on you. 45-year-old doctor, maybe you say, all right, I'll pick him or her. And someone called him an absolute jerk. You can expect that. And they love it that he's being taken down by other good want to hear, which, I mean, you can make that argument, but the thing is, because Michael, I think you mentioned it in the last segment, he's had things he's done where he investigated, got in with Rupert Murdoch, and actually exposed the things that were happening. And also with his piece on Bannon, some people said the one he was mentioning, the interview, they said in that piece, he just basically regurgitated what Bannon had to say, and Bannon himself made himself look crazy. But that's to certain people who already know that Bannon is crazy. Right. We've got these guys that were elected, and then people don't know what they're about. They just heard the two things they wanted to hear, as he outlined. So there's a reason to give the full facts instead of just regurgitating.
Yeah, like context matters. Like context matters a lot. That's actually journalism 101, because you can't assume that every viewer and every reader knows everything there is to know about a certain person or their background or where they're coming from. So, like, he wants you to just relay a message. But what's the context of that message? What's this person's background? What is their motivation? Like, those are all important details. Those are facts that go along with the story. Anyway.
Now, there was a point also, it was a 33-minute interview. I'm sorry we're still on this.
No, it's true. I'm sorry. Yeah, go ahead. I want to follow up on what Anna said, because it supports what she said, too, about it. It makes him seem envious of, or it makes him seem as if he thinks everybody's envious of him, so that's why they're crying about it, right? That, I got access, and you didn't get access, you're coming after me.
I really wish that I was, a columnist for Hollywood Reporter. Like, I mean, I really fucked up.
Well, actually, at this point, I do. But
yeah, there's nothing wrong with Hollywood Reporter. I'm just saying, I'm not jealous of him.
But it's, he's so wrong about this. It's so ridiculous how wrong he is about it, and he seems so childish. And he's criticizing the way people interact on Twitter while interacting on Twitter, which is always my favorite.
So last one with the age thing. Someone said, apparently I'm not a real journalist because I want to hold power accountable. I actually don't know how old this particular gentleman is, but Michael Wolff responded, you're not a real journalist because you're 15, so he probably overdoing. But also so that was the second age one, just I've seen in these last few tweets. But also, like I said, there was a 33-minute interview, and other parts of it, he was saying people are going to start kissing this administration's ass, being the Trump administration. And I'm sure eventually this, whatever good graces I'm in now, I'll be out of, because I'm going to hold their feet to the fire.
He said that?
Yeah, he was basically like, he's end up getting, the anger part of these people, because everyone really starts falling and fawning over these guys. I don't know if he saw the similarities of what's happening, but apparently he believes the principle is, right now, they just got into power. Let's find out who they are. Right. Rather than saying what we already know about them.
That's what he's saying also about the journalists, because he's saying at 25 they've just gotten into power. Let's find out who they really are. So he's
doesn't seem like he's that interested in finding out
who they are. And by the way, there's a guy named Gabe Fleischer. He's 15. He's literally 15. He's a journalist. He has a Twitter handle at @WakeUp2Politics. He's in St. Louis. I've met him at a couple of the debates. He got there on his own, and then it was great because in the middle of the summer, when all the election stuff was happening, he kind of disappeared and trying to get people a story, and it's great.
I love that.
So he's 15, he knows what he's doing, and he's not even 25. So it has nothing to do with age.
I want to quickly read Brian Newton's TYT Live tweet. He says, on Wolf's comments, wrong. That's all it was. Love it. There were lots of other good tweets, but we got to get to the stories.
If you don't go with the wolf to wolf segue now, you're done.
What?
What's the next story you're doing?
Oh yeah, that's true. Now from one wolf to another.
Oh, perfect.
I'm gonna do it in a conventional journalist way, local news reporter way.
Okay, let me each get a shot. JR gets one too.
All right. And now we go from one wolf to another. Okay.
Now we go from the wolf at the door to someone who you think might be dressed in wolf's clothing. Oh.
That was good! That was so good!
I didn't even prepare it. I don't even know if it makes sense. I just went with both cliches. All right, Jeff had a lot of time to prepare this one. Back to you, Anna.
Perfect. All right.
JR wins.
All right. RNC spokesperson Sean Spicer was on CNN speaking to Wolf Blitzer, and Spicer was not too happy with the fact that Wolf Blitzer, in a very, very rare event, asked a bunch of follow-up questions in regard to Donald Trump. Take a look.
Tell us a little bit more. Should he go out and deliver a speech specifically denouncing these neo-Nazis, these white supremacists, saying
every tweet claim.
Should he go out there and deliver a specific speech and make that abundantly clear he doesn't want these people support and he condemns them?
When is it going to be enough? He has condemned everyone that's come out and supported him, every group that supported him. At some point, you've got to take, his position and go move on. But over and over again, somebody will come out and say, I support Donald Trump. He has to denounce them. Someone tweets. He has to refute the tweet. At what point is his position clear? He has said that he refutes that. That's not the kind of movement that he wants to support or be energized by him. That's not the kind of people that he wants to be associated with him. And so I don't know how many more times Donald Trump can make his position clear, but it has been crystal clear for a long time and over and over and over again with every tweet, utterance, you name it, Facebook post, he has to somehow respond to it. To continue to ask him over and over again to denounce the same people, the same words, the same groups over and over again is getting a bit preposterous. His focus, his words, is uniting this country, moving us forward, creating jobs. I don't know how many times he can talk about that, but he is continually asked on this and other areas to repeat his position over and over again, and it seems a bit silly. You've asked me eight times the same question. I've told you what his position is. That's because that's not his focus. So I get that you guys all want to ask the same question over and over again and make him denounce it 8 ways to Sunday, but it's not what he wants to talk about. It's the news media over and over and over again asking the same question. But I don't know how many times he has to answer that question, and you sit figuring out the way and the fashion that he should do it next. I mean, if he gets out and gives a speech, then should he, write it in the sky in an airplane? I mean, at what point is it enough? I don't know, but I think he's been very clear, and it's time to move on.
When is Trump gonna say it? When is he gonna call it for what it is? Radical white supremacists. He doesn't say it. He doesn't say it once. He doesn't say it. By the way, no, he hasn't denounced it on every platform. Donald Trump specifically, he's been asked about it by the New York Times in the meeting that he had canceled and then reinstated. And here's what he had to say, okay? So this is a tweet by Maggie Haberman from the New York Times, and Maggie tweets, Trump on alt-right supporters. By the way, let's stop calling them alt-right. They're neo-Nazis, they're white supremacists. Let's not allow them to use euphemisms, okay? It's more than just alt-right. Trump on neo-Nazi supporters. It's not a group I want to energize, and if they are energized, I want to look into it and find out why. Whoa, strong language denouncing their behavior. Strong language. On Steve Bannon, who is very clear about his disdain for minorities, Trump says, if I thought he was a racist or alt-right or any of the terms we use or we could use, I wouldn't even think about hiring him. And then also Trump on Bannon, I think it's very hard on him. I think he's having a hard time with it because it's not him. Okay, so why do people keep pestering Trump about racism. It's weird. Like, where does this all come from? Like, why do these, white supremacists in the country all of a sudden feel emboldened after Trump got elected? It's weird, right? I don't know. Take a look at this.
When Mexico sends its people, they're not sending their best. They're not sending you. They're not sending you. They're bringing drugs. They're bringing crime. They're rapists. I'm a negotiator like you folks. We're negotiators. Do you want to renegotiate deals? Some of us renegotiate deals. I would say about 99.9. Is there anybody that doesn't renegotiate deals in this room? This room negotiates. I want to renegotiate this room. Perhaps more than any room I've ever spoken to. Maybe more. I say it again. What do you have to lose? Look, what do you have to lose? You're living in poverty. Your schools are no good. You have no jobs. 58% of your youth is unemployed. What the hell do you have to lose?
She was a Miss Universe contestant and ultimately a winner who they had a tremendously difficult time with as Miss Universe.
Did not know that story.
Well,
I didn't know either.
she was the winner, and she gained a massive amount of weight, and it was a real problem.
And she said I made inappropriate advances. And by the way, the area was a public area, people all over the place. Take a look. You take a look. Look at her. Look at her words. You tell me what you think. I don't think so. I don't think so.
We had a real problem. Not only that, her attitude, and we had a real problem with her. So,
do you regret saying that specifically about rapists, or do you stand by it?
No, not at all. Of course, it's not only Mexico. If you let that run a little bit longer, it talks about people coming from all over. They're coming from all over.
So I don't know. I mean, like, why all of a sudden do we have this issue with white supremacists in the country? Like, why would white supremacists have a conference in Washington, D.C., where they talk about peaceful ethnic cleansing and scream things like "Hail Trump" as they're doing a Nazi salute? Where did that all come from? It's weird.
Yeah, it's strange. Also, we should stop asking about it.
Yeah.
That's really the conclusion you make. Is, I mean, if Wolf Blitzer is going to be the poster child for a follow-up, I think then things are going well, because everybody else who is always asking follow-ups is going to keep doing that. And Sean Spicer said, "Listen, can you imagine this? Well, President Nixon, what about the cover? You know what? I'm not going to ask about the cover-up anymore. President Bush, what about? I mean, you could go to any president and ask these things, President Clinton, whoever it is." And there's going to be, a number of people on their side who says, please stop asking. The role of these people is to keep asking, especially when it's something as ugly and divisive and leaves as many Americans suspicious and angry as his white supremacy. Now, the other side of that is it should have been done more before.
Absolutely. I think before there was this assumption that Trump was not someone who was worth taking seriously.
Yeah.
And that, there was a fringe group of people who called for peaceful ethnic cleansing, right? But and look, I think overall, I don't know what percentage of Trump voters fall under that category.
But every single Trump voter, and every single Trump voter falls under the category of supporting someone who was supported by all of these people.
I agree.
Right?
I agree with you on that.
So you're complicit in some way.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. Look, I was reading some comments from a Trump supporter on Facebook today, because I'm interested. I'm interested to see what drives them, and they completely deny the fact that they're complicit in racist, sexist, misogynistic behavior. And he was saying, I got to ignore it because these libs are taxing me broke. And I wrote back to him, and I was like, whatever happened to taking personal responsibility for your lack of funds?
Yeah.
I mean, I pay taxes. I'm not broke.
Right.
It's just this notion that your economic situation is so bad that you want to risk the lives of a huge population of people in this country just to elect someone who, by the way, doesn't even have a decent economic plan.
Right.
So anyway, that's what's going on. And so I like the follow-up questions. I like challenging Trump on it. And no, his statement to the New York Times was not enough. Okay, he didn't condemn it. He didn't condemn David Duke, nearly enough.
Well, first of all, he said at the beginning that he didn't even know who David Duke was,
which is a lie.
Which, even if it was a lie, let's say it was true, okay? Because I think it was a lie too. But let's say it was true. Why would you endorse someone who is not cognizant enough of where hate is in this country to not know who David Duke is? Why would that person at all be, made president by this country? Not knowing it is just as bad as knowing it and allowing it, because it's a willful ignorance. The other part of it is Steve Bannon. People don't know this. A lot of people don't know this. Was part of the Trump campaign from the word go. He was there at the very beginning. It's only now that Donald Trump's having to answer for it, because when you become president-elect, you have to announce who the people are. You have to have this openness about who the people in your White House staff are, whose salaries we are all going to be paying. So Donald Trump knows. He's been complicit in hiding Steve Bannon, as has his entire campaign, because they haven't had to talk about how involved he was. When it became obvious that he was more involved was when Manafort was gone, Kellyanne Conway was brought in, there were profile pieces on Bannon, Breitbart's influence came into the campaign. So Donald Trump is fooling nobody here. So Wolf Blitzer and everybody else keep asking. That's what has to be done here, because they are hiding, and when they're hiding, you have to ask. That's all.
All right, moving on to other news, now that we have a better idea of people who will be in Trump's administration. After a long battle during the election between Donald Trump and South Carolina's Governor Nikki Haley, Trump has decided to choose Haley as the ambassador to the UN in Trump's administration. In fact, he released a statement saying that Governor Haley has a proven track record of bringing people together regardless of background or party affiliation to move critical policies forward for the betterment of her state and our country. She is also a proven deal maker, and we look to be making plenty of deals, tremendous deals. She will be a great leader representing us on the world stage. Now, during the election, Nikki Haley did not endorse Trump. In fact, she was very critical of Trump and his rhetoric. She did endorse Marco Rubio. But regardless of all of that, she has decided to accept this position. She says our country faces enormous challenges here at home and internationally, and I'm honored that the president-elect has asked me to join his team and serve the country we love as the next ambassador to the United Nations. Now, if she steps down, and it seems like she will, keep in mind that her position as governor will be replaced by the state's lieutenant governor, Henry McMaster, who was an early and vocal supporter of Donald Trump. So I bring that up because I think it's relevant. I don't know if he's doing this to have a little more control in South Carolina. It's a possibility.
Well, I think he's looking at somebody who he thinks would make the literal complexion of his cabinet look as he promised it would. Right? It's a woman of Indian descent. He's putting her at the United Nations. And let's talk about Trump on the United Nations. He's an isolationist, right? He wants to pull America back from the world stage. He wants to cancel agreements on climate trade and the Iran nuclear deal. In this campaign, he has called he has said to the United Nations they're not a friend of democracy and not a friend of freedom. And then in 2005, you'll remember Donald Trump got in front of people and said he's a big fan of the United Nations. So it's again, he's back and forth and waffling on this issue, but he put someone there who has no experience on the world stage.
No experience.
South Carolina legislator.
Yes.
They said the person who's the Trump campaign spokesman charged with talking about Nikki Haley said that she'd been on a number of overseas trade missions. I did a semester in Florence and I went on a business trip to Hong Kong. I can't be at the United Nations as our ambassador. So to me it seems unthinkable that you would have somebody, unless you just don't care about the United Nations.
I feel like Nikki Haley was a curious choice for Donald Trump, just because during the campaigning, again, Nikki Haley was very critical of him, and he shot back with some pretty terrible rhetoric. So let me give you those examples. So Haley, this is graphic 14. Haley called out Mr. Trump in January when she gave the official Republican rebuttal to President Obama's State of the Union address, and she later took him to task for his failure to condemn groups like the KKK. So she definitely didn't like the fact that right from the get-go, he seemed like he was complicit in some of the racist rhetoric that we're seeing throughout the country right now. Mr. Trump, she says, has definitely contributed to what I think is just irresponsible talk. She also said the KKK came to South Carolina from out of state to protest. This was specifically in response to the shooting that happened at the black church in South Carolina. She said the KKK came to South Carolina from out of state to protest on our state house grounds. I will not stop until we fight a man that chooses not to disavow the KKK. That is not a party. That is not a part of our party. That is not who we are. Okay? And so in response to all of that, Donald Trump had said, she's very, very weak on illegal immigration. She's very, very weak on illegal immigration. We can't have that.
You forgot to say you can't have that again. In the February South Carolina primary, Nikki Haley's endorsement was seen as paramount, and Marco Rubio got it. Jeb Bush didn't. Both of them lost to Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And afterwards, Trump, sort of lampooned. I don't know exactly what he said. I don't have the quote of it, but he made fun of, oh, look who got the endorsement of Nikki Haley, and it didn't matter. Again, though, I mean, when you elect somebody from a party that you don't like, and I know there are a lot of people here who don't like the Democratic Party either, but when the other side wins, and we'll make it a little more light, when the other side wins, you're always going to get appointments that you disagree with, and you have to pick the ones that you most disagree with. And Nikki Haley is probably among the more agreeable appointments, also at a job that in this administration probably not the most important job. I mean,
right.
I happen to think the UN's great. I know I speak for you, who embraces the world community in that way. That yes, it's important to us. To the Trump administration, who wants to pull away from it, according to him, it's not as important. Jeff Sessions at the Justice Department, put your energy there.
Yeah, look, in the world of foreign policy and international relations, being part of the UN and being active in the UN is important, right? So for everyone who's fatigued and sick and tired of, the wars that we start and the wars that we perpetuate, I'm with you. But in the world of international relations, you need allies. And a good way to maintain your allies is to have open dialogue with them, have open communication with them. You have to be connected, right? Especially because there's really no international governing body. The UN's like the closest thing that we have to that. And so it's a terrible idea to minimize our role in the UN. And look, I think that you make a good point, because there were some rumors that Nikki Haley was going to be chosen as Secretary of State, which of course would have a lot more power. But in this case, she was chosen as the UN ambassador.
And by the way, I'd rather have her as Secretary of State than Rudy Giuliani. So, I mean, you always have, and the thing that this reflects most poorly on, or the person that it reflects most poorly on, is not Trump or his people, it's Nikki Haley. It's these conversations about Mitt Romney, who has not been offered as far as I know, and has not accepted as far as I know. These people who have just gone back on the things they've said about this person. The normalization of Donald Trump that creates is surprising to me, but it just shows the spinelessness of some of these people. Mitt Romney, if I were advising him, or if he were my dad, I'd say, are you kidding?
It's amazing. It is really amazing.
Well, let's see. Maybe he will. I mean, he won't. But
But so many of his critics ended up backing him the second he got elected.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that I think turns a lot of people off to politics, not just when it comes to Republicans, you see with Democrats as well. I mean, the same thing that happened with, Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama. While they were campaigning against one another in the primaries in 2008, I mean, there was some vicious activity going on. And then as soon as Barack Obama gets the nomination, all of a sudden it's like lovely, flowery language, and the endorsements kind of start rolling in. And so it just all seems fake, disingenuous.
It happens in party politics all the time. I mean, the primaries are tough, then they come back together.
It's just weird.
This is different.
Yeah.
Because this guy is different. This guy is different than Barack Obama was when he won. And coming to Barack Obama for most Democrats was an afterthought thing, right? Obviously, we're going to go do it, And even people who worked in government, even Clinton people, fine. Was it bruising primary, but we got there. It's fine, and he recognized Hillary Clinton's preparedness to be Secretary of State, right? Done, okay? But this is about Donald Trump. This is about endorsing things that are so hateful by signing on to his campaign or his administration. It's surprising to me, especially in the case of Mitt Romney. I don't know Nikki Haley as well, and there are other reasons there. But
by the way, Nikki Haley is of Indian descent, and so when she and Donald Trump had their tiff during the election, a lot of his supporters would go after her and her Indian heritage. And then after she was chosen as the UN ambassador, they continued on attacking her for her background. So it's all very interesting, and we'll see how it plays out. All right, moving on. New information from tax returns from Donald Trump's foundation includes some interesting contributions from people like, the Ukrainian oligarch. So it turns out that the Donald J. Trump Foundation received $150,000 from a Ukrainian oligarch in exchange for a video speech Trump gave at a conference while he was a presidential candidate back in 2015. So there's a little bit of an issue with this, okay? And it specifically has to do with certain laws or certain constitutional issues that might have been violated. Now, according to some charity law experts, this raises concerns among charity law experts who say the payments should be taxed like personal income for Trump rather than treated as tax-exempt contributions to a nonprofit. So understand that Hillary Clinton also had issues with her foundation. This was one of the big criticisms that her foundation had to deal with. And it was funny because one of the biggest critics of that was Donald Trump. And now you look at his filings and you realize,
you look at his foundation's filings because we can't look at his.
Yeah, you look at his foundation's filings. Like, good clarification. And you're like, that's a perfect example of, like shouting about someone doing what you're doing. Projection. That was the word I was looking
Projection.
for.
No, that's exactly right. People do that like in relationships. You can't do that when you're president of the United States.
I know you're cheating on me, and then you got the man on the side. Shit.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Not that I know anything about that. I don't.
You wouldn't know that. Right.
Okay.
You've never projected ever, right?
Never. No,
I just projected. But that's right. And these are the questions, again, like the hindsight stuff, and who knows what would have mattered because nothing mattered in this election, right? So if you knew this on November 1st, okay, you knew it, and it would just have gone into some big stew of things that you knew, and the wrong person still won. But the whole idea that this is something going forward that's going to be part of his portfolio. And it's, by the way, it's why I'm suspicious personally of his tax returns, because I think there's a lot of Russian money that's gone into investing in his real estate projects that he has to declare taxes on the interest that he's paying to them or earning from them. I just sort of think that there is that was what this whole return would have been muddied with. And I'm not surprised to read the stories. I would see a lot of them. And I don't think, of course, you can look at the Trump Foundation in the same way as the Clinton Foundation, because they're two. First of all, the Clinton Foundation was actually an up and running foundation, taking money in and giving money out. The questions were not about the legitimacy of what they were doing. It's whether it was bad practice, right? And the people that they were with. This was a fraudulent foundation.
Yeah. And also, let me be clear about something. I'm mixing up this story with the story that we're about to do, where he did something that could be unconstitutional.
Right.
In this case, it's not unconstitutional, it's just fraudulent, and he could face some serious ramifications for it. So again, it's the way that he gets taxed. Like, if this is personal income, he's supposed to get taxed. Yeah. And in this case, it appears that it was personal income, and he reported it as a contribution to the foundation. Now, according to Philip Hackney, he's an associate professor of law, and he said, assuming Trump was giving the speech in his capacity as an individual, the payment would be income to Trump. Then Trump should have made the contribution to the foundation. So again, the Clintons had problems with this as well. They reported money from speeches as contributions rather than income.
Such a hackneyed argument.
I mean, I don't know.
Attack me. That's why I said it. So,
and also, one other thing that you should know, and this is the part that I find very interesting, because here's the reality. Do I think Trump is going to face consequences for this? No, I don't. Like, I've already given up on that, to be honest with you. Like, he's untouchable. He can literally do the exact same thing that Hillary Clinton was demonized for during the campaign, and it doesn't matter. For some reason, when he does it, he's smart. But if Hillary did it, she's like a crooked, corrupt politician.
A senator of American Indian descent, Pocahontas, in Elizabeth Warren's case. He can make fun of a handicapped reporter, and he can call Mexicans rapists, and then he can become president.
Yeah.
So you're right. You're 1,000% right.
He doesn't face any consequence. But here's another part of this that I think is really interesting. Donald Trump looks out for Donald Trump. And I think this story makes it so clear. So we know that he has a cozy relationship with Vladimir Putin. After he was elected, Russia was very clear about how they played a role in this election. That's not a secret, right? And so Russia also has some issues with Ukraine because of, what they did in Crimea, with annexing Crimea. And so, but Trump doesn't care about all that, right? He'll play both sides, okay? This is amazing. So let's go to graphic 22. In his 21-minute appearance for this video for Ukraine, Trump appeared to suggest that Ukraine was a victim of Russian aggression because of President Obama's weak leadership, and said Ukrainians weren't getting the support they need. That is freaking amazing! That is amazing!
Yeah.
That is amazing. So, look, Donald Trump looks out for Donald Trump. Donald Trump doesn't look out for, rural working class people who voted for him. He doesn't look out for the American people. He doesn't care about any of it. And that's going to lead us to our next story, where he's already using his presidency to benefit his own businesses. And that is unconstitutional. So that's what's going on right now. That's what's happening in this country.
Yeah, and he's not even president yet, right?
Amazing. Yeah.
Incredible.
All right, we're running out of time, but I have to do this next story.
Right. When else are you going to get a chance to do a story that involves the emolument clause of the U.S. Constitution?
Probably never.
Right. So
yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. All right. A former Bush counsel has just done an interview where he talked about the behavior of Donald Trump and how he's possibly using his president-elect status to benefit his own businesses. And if he is proven to do so, he could be violating the Constitution. Now, this is former lawyer Richard Painter, and he was
a White House lawyer.
He was a White House lawyer under the Bush administration. Okay, so this is not some liberal hack who's trying to go after Donald Trump. This is someone who worked in the Bush administration. So former White House lawyer Richard Painter made the case that if it appears that Trump will be in violation of the emolument clause of the Constitution, then the Electoral College must decide not to vote for him next month. Now, some of you might be wondering, what the hell is that? What part of the Constitution is it? What does it mean? Well, the clause states that no person holding any office of profit or trust under them shall, without the consent of the Congress, accept of any present, emolument, office, or title of any kind whatever from any king, prince, or foreign state. Now, after he was elected, a lot of different stories came out about various meetings that he had with world leaders, and how during those meetings, his family members, specifically Ivanka Trump, was involved, and he allegedly asked for certain favors in the form of permits for construction and stuff
that was
like
in Argentina with the President Macri there.
Yes, so let me give you the details on that. So in a phone call with Argentine President Mauricio Macri, President-elect Donald Trump asked for help with permits for an office tower that bears his name. Now, the journalist that reported this says, this still hasn't emerged, but Trump asked for Macri to authorize a building he's constructing in Buenos Aires. It wasn't just a geographical or geopolitical chat. So, at this point, Donald Trump has completely denied it. Macri has also denied it, but the journalists that worked on that story are like, no, that's what happened.
And because Macri is president there, they do transcribe the conversation.
Yes.
Trump is only president-elect, so his transcriptions don't have to exist on his phone call. When he's president, they will.
Yeah, exactly. That's a really good point. Also, he's met with other world leaders and included Ivanka Trump in those meetings. And it just seems kind of strange. So on November 17th, Trump met with the Japanese Prime Minister, and Ivanka Trump also attended the meeting. Photos distributed by the Japanese press show that. Ivanka's presence at the meeting came after Trump's transition team said she, along with her two brothers, would run that a little bit, Michael.
Yeah, well, basically, you can't. I mean, about what that means, just basically, you cannot have a hands-on when you're an elected official of any kind. When you are a senator, a federal elected official, you have to give your monies over to a blind trust or to your family to manage them, so that you're not giving a great deal to Philip Morris, and then your Philip Morris stock goes through the roof. So that's basically the way that it's like the ultimate insider trading when you're president. So he allegedly has a lot of money. We don't know. He seems to, and he's going to be giving all of that to his family. Well, his family, as Anna just said, when he met with Shinzo Abe, his family was there, not just his daughter, but his son-in-law, was also standing in the room. In that photograph, Jared Kushner, who is applying to get security clearance to be part of the administration. It's almost like this is a corporate takeover by the Trump organization of the United States government.
Yeah, and so again, if it's proven to happen, and it seems like there's some evidence indicating that this is happening, it is unconstitutional. And so this lawyer who worked for Bush under the Bush administration is saying that members of the Electoral College should not cast a vote for Donald Trump if he is found violating the Constitution. Now, do I think, again, if Donald Trump is going to face any consequences for this behavior, even if there's evidence indicating that he's doing something unconstitutional, I don't have any hope left, to be honest with you. So we'll see what happens, but I think it's interesting to hear such strong language coming from someone who was a lawyer under the Bush administration. So
it's an amazing thing. And look, everybody's looking for ways to make this man not the president, and this seems like it's a legitimate gripe against the way Trump's managed himself since he was kind of elected.
Absolutely. I'm sure we'll see a lot more of that. Anyway, that does it for the first hour. Michael, thank you.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Yeah. This is have a really good holiday. Try and love everybody at your table, even if they say things that'll piss you off, because that'll happen.
That'll definitely happen this year. All right, guys. We will be back with the second hour. Stick around.
Hi guys, it's Grace from Pop Trigger, and I'm really excited to tell you about a new show I have coming out on the Pop Trigger channel. Where to begin? It's not like anything I've ever done before, and honestly I'm a little bit nervous, but what I can tell you is that it's a show about historical events and famous figures that you've known. And I'm going to be talking about things with some of my favorite people. Some people have seen the show and they've said, Grace, this is messy, this is dark, and that's fair. I just hope that you'll watch the show and make your own assessment. What else can I say? I guess it's all in the title, right? It's murder. With friends.
There on this frontier we call the internet, there's a lot of bad folks out here. For years, corporate media barons and right-wing rustlers have tried to keep the status quo around these parts. But lucky for us, there's a man who strikes back. They call him Yankee a.k.a. Ritual Outlaw, a.k.a. Hellcat. He just rode into town, slaying the trees.
guys, welcome back to TYT. Kenny Hamilton joins us now.
Yes.
I'm excited to do the show with you. I love doing the show with you.
Well, I'm just glad, everyone else already left for the holidays, and this is what you got left. So, hey.
By the way, you know who also kind of mentally already left for the holidays? Me. I look like a mess. Like, I was like, can I just do the show without
That is the most organized, gorgeous,
get out of here.
mess I've ever seen.
Get out of here. All right. We have some great stories ahead for you guys. I do want to read some TYT lives. Gabby Marita makes a devastating point. So there was a little bit of confusion in the last segment because there were two Trump stories back to back. One of them, actually, it was all Trump stories. One of them was about him doing something potentially fraudulent. The other was about him doing something unconstitutional. And I mixed them both up because I mixed them both up. I mean, let's keep it real. She's like, sad state of affairs that we're discussing our next president in terms like it's not unconstitutional, it's just fraudulent, right?
Very sad.
That's what we're dealing with.
The times we live in today.
I know. You're in a good mood, but
I'm in a great mood.
I've been wanting to talk to you a little bit about your reaction to the election and stuff.
I went into honestly, it didn't surprise me as I was watching the results, but that night I just kind of zoned out, to be honest.
Yeah. I
zoned out and I was like, this is not going the way I wanted it to go. Obviously, I've been a big Hillary supporter. You know that. Everyone knows that here. I know you guys were on, the burning train for a long time, and then you guys, came over. We tried to, unite as far as what we thought was the liberal side of the country or a lot of the other people. But I thought the emails and the whole FBI investigation stuff that came out about a week or so, 2 weeks before that, I thought that had a bigger bearing than I initially thought. Because it seemed that every scandal that Trump had, he would just bounce back from it.
Yeah, like immediately.
Like it was no problem. And then it just showed you the tone of America. But again, I'm from the South. So, I went to Houston about a month ago. I was in Jackson, Mississippi about a month and a half, maybe 2 months ago. And I saw nothing but Trump signs. I saw Trump everywhere I went. So it was still in my head that, there's a lot of people that are going to the polls. And if we don't have the turnout that we did in 08 and 2012, this is going to be different. And that's why I wasn't necessarily shocked with it.
Yeah, I actually, look, I was disappointed. I think anyone who watched the live coverage could see that. But I don't think I was shocked either. A day before the election, John and I were doing TYT Fusion in Reno.
Right.
And John loves polls. And so he brought up the polls that day, talked about, what Nate Silver was saying, what 538 was saying. And so there was like this ease of mind, I guess, that a lot of people had, but I just remember talking about it on the show and saying, like, I don't trust those polls.
Yeah.
And so I wasn't shocked either.
You had a mix of people who were like, oh, she's going to win. And then you had the others like, oh, I'm not going to vote.
Yeah.
So it's like you start combining these piles up and you're like, it's a big problem we have.
Yeah, definitely. One final question about this election before we get to the stories. So, now you have a lot of questionable people feeling proud about their white supremacy or what they believe is white supremacy. Do you feel threatened by any of that at all? Like, are you worried?
I don't feel threatened by it necessarily personally because we live in California and I don't, where I live in West Hollywood, Beverly Hills, you don't see that type of stuff. I am fearful for a lot of my family members and other people that are across the country that are, gay, straight, minority, whatever. There's an overtone anywhere you go and people that you talk to that they're depressed, they're afraid and things like that. And, I saw that interview that Trump did on 60 Minutes and, he still hasn't denounced like any of this stuff, all stuff like it's almost like speaking around it. Like I need to keep these guys, but I won't denounce them, but I'm just gonna kind of go around it and not take it head on like it should be and try to unite the country is what they are supposed to do.
Uniting
I don't think so, but I'm honestly I'm trying my hardest because I did serve in the military and I understand that our commander-in-chief elect is someone that I did not support. So I'm trying my hardest to wake up and say, all right, let's give it a chance. But also at the same time, to be completely honest, I said, you know what? I got to make as much money as possible. I got to get over that tax hump, almost like that Dave Chappelle joke when he said on SNL. It's like let me get over this tax bracket and see, if I'm going to reap any benefits or if there's going to be some other things that can come out of this. But I'm trying to look at it as a positive light, but I'm not there yet. but I'm trying to get them, telling myself to get there. So that's why I walked in here screaming.
Yeah, you came in with the best mood ever, and I'm like, I need to do whatever you're doing.
Yeah, I'm just trying. I ran 4 miles this morning though.
That'll get the endorphins going for sure. All right, so speaking of possible hate crimes, George Soros has pledged a whopping $10 million to fight hate crimes in the United States. Now, this was a response to the increased number of hate crimes following the election of Donald Trump. The FBI has reported last week that there was an increase of nearly 67% last year in hate crimes against Muslim Americans and an increase of 6% against all groups. So there was already an uptick, but the number kind of exploded after Donald Trump was elected. So between the election and Friday, the Southern Poverty Law Center received more than 700 reports of harassment and possible hate crimes. So George Soros sees all this, and he realizes it's a problem, and so he's decided to spend a considerable amount of money to combat it. Soros's nonprofit, the Open Society Foundations, plans to spend at least $5 million in coming weeks to fund grants of as much as $150,000 to community groups and civil rights organizations to develop plans for combating the recent spate of hate crimes and to work with victims. Now, the rest of the money is going to go toward tracking and reporting these hate crimes, because even the FBI is saying that there are some inconsistencies. It's kind of a flawed system, and so George Soros wants to improve that. And I think it's important to do all this. I think it's important to protect people against possible hate crimes. We are seeing an uptick, and I do think it has something to do with the rhetoric of Trump and his campaign. But interestingly enough, George Soros is like, this is not a political statement. I'm not trying to make a political statement. Right. But it is a political statement, and that's okay.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's an... Could we say it's an underlining political statement? Yeah. It's definitely something. He's a Holocaust survivor himself.
Yes.
And so for his, for a lot of the Jews and other things, everyone's being oppressed right now. It's almost like going back to the rhetoric that Trump has been putting out there. All of these neo-Nazis, all of these, who want America to be pure white, again, the alt groups and everything else that we're seeing, they're coming out in droves now because they have that confidence now. So that's putting a lot of fear into the country. That's putting a lot of fear into people. And some of these smaller towns where people aren't protected, like, think about it. We've seen all these different stories on, this mayor from this small town of Virginia and this politician from this state and this one from this here saying this and that about whether they're saying about Michelle Obama or anything like that. I always have said, if someone has the audacity to speak of someone else in that tone or that way, could you imagine what they're doing when the cameras aren't on and there's no one else around?
Yeah, that's a great point. Wow, I never really thought about it that way, but it is scary to think that it could be worse than what the rhetoric portrays. Yeah. But another thing that I found really interesting about this is the demonization of George Soros, and so a lot of conservatives will attack their opponents by saying that they're funded by George Soros. We're accused of being funded by George Soros, which I think is hilarious because we kind of want to be, but we're not, right? So, like, if we were, it's not like something we'd hide. We'd, like, openly accept it. We'd be like, awesome, we got funding from George Soros. There's nothing wrong with that. But one of the criticisms that a lot of Republicans have is that George Soros is too influential with his money in our current modern-day political system. But you also have the Koch brothers on the other side, which I would argue spend way more money in trying to manipulate our elections and manipulate our politicians. And they never complain about that. Now, understand, I don't want money in politics, period. Like, I don't care if it's Democrats, I don't care if it's Republicans, I don't think money in politics should be part of our political system. But it's just funny to hear one side complain about something that they're benefiting from, and they're benefiting from it, in a big way.
Yeah. Money makes the world go round.
It does. I mean, money makes the political system go round, I guess.
1,000%.
But go around in a very corrupt way.
And let's just, George Soros' passions have always been to help people and to help fund, the things that he's very passionate about. So if you had 10 to 15, 20 different people that wanted to do the same thing, what's the problem with that? The problem is you have someone who's extremely wealthy, more wealthy than a lot of others. So, case in point, if Bill Gates or like Tim Cook or somebody like that was actually out here doing, funding whatever system that they want. Because there's a lot of rhetoric right now of Silicon Valley wanting to create a whole new political party per se, or a new movement. And if you knew the billionaires that were a part of that, it's like Soros times 10. Which is very
Is that
incredible.
the alt-left movement? I mean, I don't even want to say that. By the way, from this point forward, I'm no longer using alt-right. Like, I'm done using alt-right. Like, I want to call them what they are, and they're white nationalists, and that's it. Like, they're white supremacists. Yeah. I'm not going to allow them to use any kind of euphemism to describe themselves. So alt-right, it's like nails on a chalkboard at this point when I hear it.
Got it.
So, by the way, that's my position on it. That's not to say that the other hosts should do it or have to do it. It's just the way I feel. I think that we're making them seem like they're not as bad as they really are. They're garbage, and they should be treated as such. So, all right, moving on. A Donald Trump elector in Montana is under fire for some of the language that he used against the gay community 6 years ago. Now, Dennis Scranton had some pretty strong words about gay individuals and what he believes should happen to them. And so some of you might say, it was 6 years ago. Maybe he changed his mind. Well, no, he pretty much doubled down on what he had to say about gay people. So apparently he had commented on Facebook in 2010. It was a rant about same-sex marriage. And he said, I think fruits are decorative. Hang up where they can be seen and appreciated. Call Wyoming for display instructions. So he was specifically talking about Wyoming because he was referencing what happened to Matthew Shepard. And Matthew Shepard was tortured and killed because he was gay. And it's one of the most horrendous stories imaginable, and it's hard to even think or talk about it, but what happened to Matthew Shepard was so disgusting, and to know that anyone would think of that as a positive thing that happened, as an example of what should happen to other gay individuals moving forward, makes me so incredibly sad, right? Like, the hate in this man's heart. Now, Dennis Scranton has not taken his remarks back. Okay, let's go to graphic 7. Here's what he had to say in response to all of this. He says, don't forget, I'm 93 years old. I come from a different era. I hadn't heard of anyone being homosexual until I joined the Navy, and then I encountered them. We were raised with good morals. So let's just stop for a second. First of all, I don't care if you're 95, I don't care if you're 15. You should know that advocating for the torture and murder of humans or anyone or anything is not right. Okay? So your cop out of I'm 93 does not bode well with me. But the other part of this is we were raised with good morals. Because someone with good morals talks about torturing and murdering people. That's what good morals are. Yeah, fuck your morals. How about that?
Well, again, we're living in a world where people are comfortable in their own skin. So I'm going to just tell you this. So that was 2010. So 52 years ago from now, the Civil Rights Act was signed. So you have to understand that this man was raised well before that was even a talk. He was raised during Jim Crow, during a lot of other things. I don't know his background. I don't know if he was raised in Montana or wherever. But definitely so if it was even there, because there's not even too many minorities or Native people that live up in that area. So when I see things like this, it's just like, oh, this is the old redneck that lives down 30 miles outside of Atlanta in Conyers, Georgia, who's been sitting here like the same time, and that's what he's been thinking. When he says we're raised with good morals, they were raised in a nice, probably Christian conservative household where the parents were saying that, hey, this is what God intended. If God did not intend this, then that is a dirty person and they're going to hell. And that's how people were taught. That's what people were told at a young age. They were told that they were better than people who look like me. That was the reason why they could walk in this bathroom that was clean and they didn't have to go into the colored bathroom. Or that was the reason that they could sit in a nice restaurant and sit in the movie theaters without it having to go to the balcony where they never cleaned the floors and there was popcorn everywhere, but they could go to the nice places. So this is a person who lived in that. So now that's instilled in him. You're not going to change. Women say all the time, you never change a man as much as you try to. So how are you going to change something that's instilled in him from birth until well into his adulthood. He was already a grown man by the time change started coming into this country. So of course he's probably still, the way he's stuck in his own ways, and he's
I respect the fact that you understand his perspective. I'm not saying that you support it, obviously, right?
He can hang his ass outside.
Yeah, no, but that's the thing. Like, I don't care how you've been conditioned, right? I think that it's basic human dignity. It's basic human respect. It's understanding that regardless of how much you disagree with someone's lifestyle, you don't call for the torture and murder of anyone. Right? There are so many people out there that I find deplorable. There are so many people out there that do and say things that I hate. That alt-right, look, I just fell into that trap. That white supremacist conference in D.C. included some of the most horrific people that I could not disagree with more. I would never call on the torture and murder of anyone there. I wouldn't, because that's not what a human wants. That's not what a moral person wants. You don't wish death upon anyone. So
that's not what a human or moral person is supposed to want.
True.
But if there was a purge.
All right. Let's take our first break. When we come back, a little bit of news from the UK and the sentence that Thomas Mayer has been given for killing a politician that he disagreed with. So we'll be right back with that and more.
I know what you're thinking.
I love how you do something with your lips when you play the sound clip.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Look at
Adam is a woman.
No, you're closing your mouth. Usually I'll be like, and I'm like, is he like lip syncing it?
I don't know. I never noticed it until you said it.
It's a funny habit.
It's not human intelligence!
PYT member.
They're kicking me out the door. They're kicking me out the door.
This is the early Christmas present.
videotape it!
The early Christmas present.
Do what you want to do.
Smoking is not allowed. Everyone, we got a show for you this week.
Let's communicate with all the nerds out there.
What's beautiful about geeks is geeks are open to everybody. That's the thing. It's like, so you got your thing, I got my thing. It's like, and if you're not, then you're a bad geek.
Why did you choose Battlestar Galactica? Because it's awesome? No kidding. The floor is not lava. Yoshi!
My nightmare! And there's one very special characteristic that many men have been interested in. Penis guys. What's up, friend?
Yeah, I know that curve.
And that movie is the Valentine's Day romantic classic, Deadpool. Who should we trust here? Our hearts? Our heads?
Yes.
J.J. Abrams? Isn't that right? How can you improve pizza? With math, of course.
If we spilled goldfish crackers on the floor, and we didn't want to clean them up, so we thought that if we stomped on them an infinite amount of time, they would mathematically cease to exist.
We are ready for a Wonder Woman movie. Oh, wait, no, let me correct myself. We were ready for a Wonder Woman movie years ago.
I love my job.
Smell this! Smell good. Smell it. Oh my god. Oh no.
Welcome back to TYT. Anna and Kenny with you. So, look, the tone of of this show isn't really going to change. I wish that there were happier stories to report, but I guess there's a little bit of good news in that a white supremacist has been sentenced to life for murdering someone. So let's give you that story. White supremacist Thomas Mayer has been sentenced to prison for the rest of his life for murdering a Labor MP by the name of Joe Cox. This was a big story that, of course, made international headlines because of, the brutal way in which he killed Joe Cox. And for those of you who might have missed the story, Thomas Mayer was also found guilty of the grievous bodily harm of 77-year-old Bernard Kenny, who suffered.
Was she going to roll the shit up?
For serious injuries when he in favor of leaving the European Union, and so, during the trial, several witnesses heard Mayer shouting, "This is for Britain," and "Keep Britain independent" in surveillance, and he repeatedly shot and stabbed Joe Cox as she made her way to a constituency surgery near me. So that was what happened. So he shot her multiple times and then stabbed her multiple times. The court heard that after Mayer fired the first shot, witnesses watched Cox try to crawl away as he reloaded his gun and shot her 2
Guys, we're gonna go drink. We're gonna drink.
By the way, he didn't even contest the charges. He didn't provide any evidence. He's going to be locked away for a long, long time. The reason why I'm bringing up this story is because there's a little bit of divide in the media right now about whether or not to do any coverage of the white supremacists here in the United States. Some journalists think that it's a distraction and that it's a fringe group and there's really no need to cover them. We should just ignore them and focus on other news stories.
Oh, like they're ignoring that.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. And I think that they're wrong. And the reason why I think they're wrong is because this goes beyond rhetoric. Okay? In this case, it led to a murderous action. And we have to condemn that. All of this rhetoric and behavior, right? I think it's an important news story to cover. Now, that's not to say it's the only thing you focus on. There are, of course, important news stories aside from this kind of stuff. But we're in a unique moment where the hatred is very transparent. And so you could choose to ignore it, as we have been for a very long time, or you can address it and find solutions for it.
Yeah. I mean, it's I get probably some of the other side is they don't want to bring too much attention to it and admit to what's really going on. And this is just around the world. They're everywhere. A lot of these groups, a lot of these sects are all connected. The internet connects them all, and the communication between them are incredible. I think this one is a little bit more isolated because he is super pro-Britain, and there are certain parts, like everyone wants to go to London and hang out in London. I go to London probably about 10 or 15 times a year, and if you get outside of like central London, it's completely different. It's completely different countryside. There's a lot of different racism and things that go on, a lot of prejudice of, non-British, I guess, citizens that are there. But with the saying of like, the group that we don't like to name anymore, I'm not saying we have the NNK team, but it's just really sad. I mean, it's almost like deflating. Like, it's taking the air out of me to even talk about something like this. And to be honest, my first thought is, why just give him life in prison? Why don't we give him 20 years and then we do what he did to MP Joe Cox? But I know that's not right. That's just the anger inside of me is like, yo, he reloaded his gun while he's crawling there, stabbing him so much. And this is another thing too. I get that that's why we have police and the heroes and stuff. I just sometimes I wonder how many people were in there. Like, if if 5 or 6 people, I understand if he had a gun and no one's trained, so I get that. But I'm just thinking out loud. Like if he's reloading the gun, 3, 4 people like jump on him. Like,
well, I mean,
I don't know who was in there, but
he caused bodily harm to that 77-year-old who tried to save Joe Cox, and easier said than done, and it's a scary situation, and it's all just happening quickly. But I hear you. I mean, I think the part of this that scares me the most is that there are unhinged people out there, and we live in a country where now this people that support this type of behavior are more and more vocal, and it's in a country where they have unlimited access to weapons and firearms and things like that. And so, could this happen in the United States? Absolutely. And that's why it's important to address it. That's why it's important as members of the media to be as transparent as possible about what's really happening, regardless of how dark the story is, regardless of how uncomfortable it makes us all feel. It's happening. It's not the majority of the population here in the United States. I don't even think that it's, a gigantic population. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what it is. Like, that's the thing. Back in 2009, the Department of Homeland Security decided to stop focusing on right-wing extremism in the United States, specifically because Republican lawmakers were pissed that the DHS was focusing on right-wing extremism. They're like, no. Right-wingers are totally fine. There's no problem with them whatsoever. You need to focus all of your resources on radical Islamic terrorism, right? And so what happened? Like, fast forward to 7 years later, and you're seeing this emergence of white supremacists in the country. You're seeing this emergence of hate crimes. And I think the government dropped the ball on this. I think that they caved to, right-wing pressure to ignore a very serious white supremacist, white nationalist. And we have to combat it. We have to find solutions for it. And more importantly, I think the Republican Party, some have been vocal in condemning it, but they need to be more vocal, and they need to be part of the solution.
But there was a film back in the early 90s called Higher Learning, directed by John Singleton, and it was about blacks and whites clashing at a historically black college. And it's crazy because we're starting to see a lot of things in cinema and TV, like The Simpsons, and they had Trump running and all this stuff, starting to kind of come back around. And it's almost like a foreshadowing of life. And it's really crazy to see that in something like film and something that's made believe. And it kind of goes back to some of these people who start, a lot of these mass shootings and things, and they're like, well, how come we didn't see the signs? Well, a lot of it is suppressed, and people have mental issues that may not come to light until a trigger happens. And once that trigger happens, there's no way that you would have known that before. Because, we all say, oh, we just snapped, or we just blacked out, and it can happen to us. We're human. But there are certain people that are unstable, and then they're just one moment away. And you always kind of joke around, but people used to get on planes and look for, Muslims with the headdressing and things on. I would look for like the quiet people getting on the plane with the hoods on and just like looking scruffy, just dirty, like they were just mad at life. That's what I would pay attention to. Because with me, I'm like, well, that's gonna be the first one that's gonna pop off before anyone else does. So it's just my point in just saying all this is that it's not gonna go away, and you can denounce it all day long. I feel like the reason why they don't want to do that is just you don't want to anger them. Like, is that a trigger for them? Is this a way to saying like, oh, they don't exist, and then they want to do something to show that they do exist?
Yeah, or, I don't know. I mean, it seems like anything could trigger them, but I do know that you can't solve a problem unless you address it. Exactly. You don't solve a problem by ignoring it. Exactly. So, all right.
Moving how Anna runs her household.
Oh, I address things right away. Things are good, though. Things are good. I can't say that, I don't know why I got into a conversation about my home life, but things are good. All right, guys, let's move on to some completely different news. I'm ready for it. Facebook has agreed to craft or build a censorship tool in order to appease the Chinese government. Now, understand that this tool hasn't been utilized yet. This is just a proposal, and we'll see if it even does anything to convince the authorities in China and the government in China to agree to lifting their ban on Facebook. But essentially, according to Reuters, Facebook would offer the software to enable a third party to monitor popular stories and topics that gain visibility as users share them across the network. The third party partner would have full control to decide whether those posts should show up in users' feeds. So essentially, the Chinese government likes to control any and all messaging that goes to its people. At the same time, Facebook, which claims that it's against censorship, realizes that China has or is a gigantic market. There are a lot of internet users in China to work with. And so as a result, it seems like they're willing to kind of cave to some of the censorship that authorities in China want. And they're saying, we're not going to stop people or censor what people can post, but a third party with the software development would be able to come in and decide what would show up on people's feeds. Essentially censorship. China, which has the world's largest population of internet users, banned the website following the Urumqi riots in July 2009 in an effort to stem the flow of information about ethnic unrest, which left 140 people dead. So, again, social media can be used for a lot of good things, like mobilizing people for political movement or sending important information to individuals that they might, not get through mainstream media. Perfect example that I like to use in the context of the United States was the filibuster that Wendy Davis did in Texas when Texas was trying to pass restrictive abortion laws. She did this epic filibuster. No one in the mainstream media was covering it, so people turned to Twitter in order to get information about it, to get reporting on it. So social media is incredibly important, and governments that are authoritarian realize that, and they want to do what they can to hinder it.
Yeah. I mean, with this, when the first thing, just even reading this headline, not even reading the whole article, it just tells me that obviously they want to expand their growth for one, but for two, there's so much more money that can be made by opening into the world's second largest economy. There's a lot of tools that celebrities use and influencers and entertainers use to monetize Facebook. With
really, like what?
With a lot of the stuff. So I mean, imagine expanding that times a billion people, and there's
it's a big deal.
A lot of money that would be exchanged because of that, and made because of that, and then it, like I said, it just opens up to so many other clients and partnerships and things like that. So I don't have a problem with it. I feel like even now they've already started. They won't call it censorship. A celebrity may endorse or may have a piece of, or they may pay them to post articles on their page. So remember, they were talking about all the fake articles that were helping Trump and things like that. So there are the fake articles, there are real articles, and there are things like that. But there are certain companies that may just spam and just put the same URLs on. So now you have to change the URLs to match it, because if Facebook sees it being spammed, they'll start censoring that from your timeline and your followers for said celebrity and things like that. So they've been doing it. It's just they're staying away from that censorship word.
Yeah, of course they are. But understand, business interests always trump, I guess, the best interest of people, of the rights of people. And so, look, in China, obviously, their rights are very different from the rights that we enjoy here in the United States, at least the rights we enjoy here in the United States at the moment. But again, when it comes to money, when it comes to business interests, that's always going to be more important to any given corporation or any given company than the freedoms of individuals. Yep. All right, moving on to other news. We all know that going to college in the United States is extremely pricey. NYU happens to be one of the most priciest universities you can go to. So as a result, administrators at NYU are coming up with a new pilot program, they're testing it out, that would allow incoming students to dorm with, and it would essentially cut the cost of housing for people going to NYU. Now, Ellen Shaw, who is the chair of NYU's Affordability Steering Committee, says that the university, which has a staggering annual price tag of $65,000 a year, is trying to become more affordable to as many students as possible. So apparently the Post had done a review of the priciest colleges, and they found that NYU is ranked the number 3 most expensive college in 2015. So they want to do something about that. They don't want to lose potential talented students. And so they're like, okay, maybe we can find a solution where you would pay half the money that other students pay to dorm with, elderly people, and you would essentially do like community service by helping them out. You'd volunteer at the facilities, and you would pay a lot less money to dorm there.
This is one of those where you're like, any college student, would they want to live with a senior citizen? Like, think about it. When you were in college, everything that you were doing, trying to sneak your boyfriend in, is it like living with your grandparents? Or,
yeah, it is. It is.
How does that,
It's even more. Look, it's a little more awkward than that, I guess, because you're not just living with your grandparents; you're living with strangers that are elderly. Which, by the way, I have a huge soft spot in my heart for elderly people, and I think it's a great idea to find a way to get young people to help them, to volunteer with them, because a lot of them are lonely, and it breaks my heart. So I love this idea, but other colleges are trying something that I think is a lot smarter. So other colleges allow them to volunteer, and then the college will lower the price of housing if they do it. So it's 20 hours a week. If you do the volunteering, they'll lower the price. I think that's a little better. But I don't know. I don't know how this is going to work out. All I know is they're going to try it and see what happens. Just to give you an idea of how much it costs to live on campus, undergraduate students who choose to live on campus after freshman year pay anywhere from $10,454 for a shared studio bedroom, which is fucking unbelievable, to $21,112 for a private room in a suite.
So $65,000 just for me to go to a class that I'm not gonna want to even
that's
sit
like
in.
Tuition and fees, by the way. That's not even like dorming.
Books and everything else, plus your room and board. So we're talking, close to what, $85,000, $90,000 a year.
Easy. You know what they should maybe.
I take my chances in the real world just working.
It's definitely. I mean, look, I think college is important, and statistics show that you have way more earning potential if you have a college degree. Let's keep it real, right? That's not true for everyone. There are entrepreneurs out there
in different fields.
That dropped out of college or didn't go to college, and they're doing fine. But that's a very, very small population of people. Nonetheless, if NYU is serious. About helping students, I would argue, is a better way to do it. So a lot of people debate about why the cost of college is so expensive. A lot of conservatives hate federal loans. They'll blame it on that. But one of the biggest problems that you're seeing on college campuses is this, it's almost like an arms race that they have with one another. They want to attract the best and the brightest, and the way that they do that is with shiny new buildings. And so, look, I don't know how much of that is impacting NYU's cost, but I do know that colleges throughout the country just keep building and improving, and they don't even really need to do that. They're just thinking, okay, well, I'm in competition with all these other colleges, and so we're going to spend more and more money to build. And who pays for that? It's the students.
I mean, dorm rooms should be, I hope I'm not offending anybody, but dorm rooms should be like the projects. You get a toilet, a shower, and a raggedy elevator going up and down, and that's about it. That's all you need. That's all you need. But some of these schools, this is better than any apartment that they'll probably have after they graduate, at least 5-6 years into it.
I don't even know. I mean, it's a shared studio. Studio. I know it's
in New York City, so it's like,
It's a shared studio.
Their studio's the size of this table.
A studio does not have a bedroom. It's a room. It's one room that you... share.
I not even worth going to a school like that, especially, I mean, in today's time. Like,
I think that's
a lot
why
of
they're
kids that graduate from college because it's so oversaturated and there's not a lot of jobs right now. Or, you know, the job rate is what it is in different industries, but, you know, unless you're like a creative person or trying to start your own business or start up something like that, like, I just don't see what the point is of going to a school like this, putting yourself in. I mean, you're talking
it's an
over
investment.
$300,000 almost in debt that you're going to be living with once you graduate.
And that's assuming that you don't have any scholarship or financial aids. Or financial aid. A lot of students do. A lot of students don't pay that full amount.
Right.
But I think that
$250,000.
Yeah, I think it's important for students to think of higher education as an investment. And so you have to really, and it's hard because these are 18-year-olds. Yeah. They're young, and a lot of them don't know what they're doing, and their high school counselors don't walk them through all of this stuff. And so they think what I thought, what a lot of incoming freshmen think. Who cares what I'm going to spend, right? I'm going to end up being a millionaire once I graduate. But no, you're not. You have to look at what your earning potential is going to be with the major that you've chosen. Is this pricey school a good investment given what you want to do? One example, I think, is people who want to be social workers and they go to school in Los Angeles. It drives me nuts when people tell me they want to be social workers and they go to USC. Do not go to USC because you want to get your MSW. That is a disastrous idea, right? You're never going to make that money back. Social workers don't get paid much. I wish they did. I think they're incredibly important, but they don't get paid much. And so go to a state school. Please don't take out gigantic loans for a career that unfortunately is not going to make you rich. That's what's happening in the country. Okay. Let's take one more break, and when we come back, one final story for you, and then happy Thanksgiving.
And we'll talk about what Anna's cooking for Thanksgiving.
Yes. All right, we'll be right back.
One, two, three, four.
There's always these weird cream cheese options. I can never just find the plain. What about salmon? Do I look like a grizzly bear? Here, try this veggie. Where's the plain? Where is it? You're more of a grape drink kind of guy, right? Or try this mouthwash. Where's the plain? Do you like sexual healing? Where is the plain? Where's the plain? Where's the plain? Where is it? Where's the plain? Dude. Anna Raspberry. No, I want the plane. Supervisor! Aren't you the supervisor? Isn't the whole point of being supervisor? Why do you get to decide my cream cheese options? At what point did you decide there'd be no plain cream cheese? I don't understand. Take it easy, man. No, this is true just like with politics and anything else. If we don't stand up for ourselves, they're just gonna fuck us even harder. You're not gonna believe this. They take me out of the kitchen.
Damn it, they failed us. And if you're not angry about that, Michael, and any of you out there, then you're damn wrong. Because you should be angry. Young Turks.
It was genuine. He was bad. Jake Uger, known online as one of the Young Turks, isn't afraid to throw some punches.
3, 2, 1, fade up.
I just remember thinking, what is this guy's name?
Jake the Turk Uger.
And the TV station here says, the whole point is for me to yell and scream and tell you what I think.
It's right out of like Wayne's World.
This guy on this little rinky-dink website is speaking truth to power. We've been averaging 600,000 views a day, beating most of the cable shows in America.
We're the largest online news show in the world.
We're celebrating our 1 billionth view.
We're coming.
More politics ahead with Jake Uger.
He knew that the MSNBC opportunity was an experiment. And Phil and host beat CNN headline news combined. At some point, they want to give me a show.
Every single year, that comes out of our paycheck. We put it in, and you're saying we were suckers.
When you, as a host, tells someone you're interviewing to shut up, that's going to raise a red flag.
That guy needed a long lesson. Shut up.
If President Obama's doing the wrong thing, I'm not going to tell you that he's doing the right thing so I can support him, he says to me.
You won't believe the meeting that I just had. The head of MSNBC talked to me. They want him off the air. Cenk took an incredible risk. We're supposed to challenge the government. That's the role of the media. The Democrats and the Republicans are here to screw you. And who on the air is saying it? I wouldn't have done what you did. That if I'm going to be a talk show host, you'd be the biggest talk show host in the country. I don't think anyone else does it better. I don't think anyone's even close. Before you know it, I'll be back on your TV doing an actual show. I guarantee it.
Welcome back to TYT. So I don't even know who it is because you read me the tweet. I'm never on Twitter. But someone was like, "Oh, Anna's got a soft spot for elderly people, except for the elderly people that watch Fox News, and you're waiting for them to die off." So let me be clear about something. Yeah, I have a soft spot for elderly people, like those who are kind-hearted, who feel like they're alone. Yeah, of course I have a soft. Do I have a soft spot for people like that Montana piece of shit who's 93 and who talks about torturing and murdering gay people? No, don't have a soft spot for him. Help, let me explain it to you. Anyone who's hateful, I don't have a soft spot for them. Anyone who watches a soft spot for them. Not at all. Are there older people who watch Fox News that aren't hateful? Absolutely. But I'm specifically talking about a specific group of people that are prejudiced, that are racist, that want to go back to the good old days where people had no rights, including women such as myself. No soft spot for them. None at all. Okay?
We're not saying the Montana guy should go, jump in a river without a raft.
If he wants to, that's on him. But I'm just saying, like, I don't have a soft spot in my heart for him. But I do have a soft spot for elderly people in general, as long as they're not bad people. So, don't read me tweets. I fucking hate Twitter. People are like, look, I gotta read this to you. I'm like, please don't, because it makes me want to go into a rage. All right, so let's move on.
Trigger I was talking about, people?
That's a trigger. That's a trigger. No, it's not even like criticizing me is fine, right? For me, the trigger is stupidity, right? Like being willfully stupid and not being able to differentiate things when it's so clear. It's like the clearest thing in the world.
Right.
And it's like, oh, I'm going to pretend like I don't get it, when you probably do get it. Like, that triggers me.
I think they just want attention from you. I mean...
They got it, and I'm glad I don't know what the person's handle is.
You're the queen of TYT. Of course they want attention from the queen.
I kind of like that title, by the way. I don't know who's ever called me that.
See, now I just turned it upside down. Turn that frown upside down.
All right, this is the final story. Final segment, and I had one final story to talk about, but it has to do with corporal punishment, and I'm fucking done. Okay, I'm done. Thanksgiving is tomorrow, and so instead, let's have a quick, fun conversation about our Thanksgiving plan.
I was gonna tell you how my dad used to come to school and whip my ass.
You can still talk about that if you want.
So, what are you cooking tomorrow? This is our first Thanksgiving as a husband and wife here. So, what are you cooking?
So, normally adults, especially adults who are already in their 30s, should host at least one Thanksgiving by now, but I haven't because I live in a tiny apartment, so I never host I never host anything.
Okay.
It's really uncomfortable in my place, but my mom's having Thanksgiving at her place, so I will be there along with my husband, and I'm going to help her cook. So
nice.
I'm making my favorite cake that my mom taught me to make. It's called roulette. And it's, I think it's a Russian cake. I'm not entirely sure. And then I'm also making Cuban pastries, kale salad, because that's probably the only healthy thing that's going to be on the table.
Salad,
yeah, and then there was one other thing, but I'm forgetting at the moment. I'm going to be cooking a lot tonight, like prepping.
Yeah, you have to. No, I'm having my first Thanksgiving on the West Coast with my girlfriend and I. We're going to Las Vegas to a friend of hers, a Friendsgiving, first one. And normally I like to go back to the South and get my traditional collard greens and macaroni and cheese and dressing and everything.
That's also what I'm making.
Sweet potato pie. I don't want that pumpkin pie bullshit. Like, please just get that away from me. So I'm just kind of nervous on how the food's going to be prepared and how good it's going to be. Because I had a conversation with my father and I said, I've been cooking since I was 10 years old. So one thing I can do is throw down in the kitchen. I'm not one of those guys that just grills out people. Just understand that. So I was like, can I just go in this girl's house and just say, hey, let me take it over?
Yeah.
And everyone's telling me that that's disrespectful. So I said, okay, let me sit back. I got all the alcohol. I got a case full in my car.
Wait. What's disrespectful?
To go in someone else's kitchen and just, assume that their food's not going to be good, so you want to cook the food the way.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah. So it wasn't me helping. It was like, nah, everybody get out. I got it. So I'm trying to be respectful and be nice. So I got, all my edibles and my alcohol to just not even worry about it.
Nice.
Yep.
Yeah. Thanksgiving's my favorite. I hope everyone has an awesome time and I'm sure awkward conversations will happen. There's a lot of
stuff going on. The reasons why we even celebrate Thanksgiving and what's going on in this country and this world. But I just encourage everybody, and yourself included, to just disconnect and just find what makes you happy. Like, find that happy spot and that happiness within you. Even the people who may be like, yo, get this big head dude off my TV or my computer. But just
learn the art of pivoting.
Yeah, find happiness.
Which was a hard lesson for me to learn this year. And so I all of a sudden am in this world of very different political opinions from my own. Getting married, you're kind of exposed to that sometimes. And so I realized, there is no value in debating politics with some family members, especially those who are set in their ways. And so I've learned the art of pivoting. And what I do is I hear their statement or their perspective, and I'll say, that's an interesting way of looking at things. So how's that, sweet potato pie? Art of pivoting, okay? It'll save you a lot of heartache. Just do it.
Or just drink, watch football.
Drinking, there'll be some different reactions from me. Let me tell you what I think. Anyway.
Everybody drink banana.
All right, guys, have a happy Thanksgiving. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the show. If you're a member, stick around. There will be a post-game show for you and for everyone else. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Mm.